My religion is based on truth and non-violence. The truth is my God. Non-violence is the means of realizing Him. This powerful philosophy defined Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, better known as Mahatma Gandhi, a figure revered worldwide for his role in India's independence. But what if there's more to his story than the inspiring quotes and peaceful protests? Let's analyze the lesser-known aspects of Gandhi's life. From his controversial actions during the partition of India and Pakistan to his troubling views on race and personal conduct. Imagine a leader who fought for freedom yet had complex and sometimes contradictory beliefs. Gandhi's journey from a deeply religious upbringing in India to his struggles in England and his transformative experiences with racial discrimination in South Africa shaped him into the iconic figure we know. But alongside his advocacy for non-violence and social justice, there were darker, more controversial facets of his character. Did you know Gandhi's efforts to unify Hindus and Muslims often fell short, leading to violent riots? Or that his unconventional practices to test celibacy and his racial attitudes in South Africa have sparked intense debates? And what about his views on women's roles and contraceptives, which reflect both progressive and conservative ideas of his time? Gandhi was born on October 2nd, 1869 in Porbandar, India, the youngest child of his father's fourth wife. His father, Karamchand Gandhi, served as the chief minister or Diwan of Porbandar, while his mother, Putlibai, was deeply religious and devoted to fasting, dividing her time between home and the temple. Gandhi's upbringing was steeped in Vaishnavism, the worship of the Hindu god Vishnu, and to some extent Jainism, which emphasizes non-violence and the belief in the eternal nature of everything in the universe. This upbringing influenced Gandhi's practice of vegetarianism, ahimsa, fasting for self-purification, and his respect for all religions and genders. After passing his examination at the University of Bombay in 1887, Gandhi enrolled in Samal Das College to further his education. He then embarked on a journey to England to improve his English and Latin skills by taking the University of London matriculation exam. During his 3-year stay in England, Gandhi faced personal challenges, including the death of his mother and difficulties establishing himself in the legal profession he hoped to join. Returning to India in July 1891, Gandhi's initial career struggles persisted until he was offered a year's contract from the Indian firm in Natal, South Africa, in 1893. His stay in South Africa extended to over 20 years, interrupted only briefly by a return to India from 1896 to 1897. During his time in South Africa, Gandhi confronted severe racial discrimination, such as being asked to remove his turban in the Durban court and being expelled from his first-class train compartment, followed by a physical assault when he refused to vacate his seat for a European passenger. Non-Europeans, including Gandhi, were also barred from European-only hotels. In response to these experiences, Gandhi founded the Natal Indian Congress and served as its secretary, advocating tirelessly against the discrimination faced by Indians under British colonial rule. His efforts garnered international attention, with newspapers like The Times of London and The Statesman highlighting the plight of Indian subjects under Queen Victoria's rule, thanks to the statements and actions of the Natal Indian Congress. Gandhi's political influence grew significantly during this period, shaping his legacy as a transformative figure in India's struggle for independence and a global advocate for civil rights and non-violence resistance. By 1920, Mahatma Gandhi had become a pivotal leader in India's struggle for independence through a series of non-violent actions and civil disobedience campaigns orchestrated under the Indian National Congress, also known as the Congress Party. These included widespread boycotts of British goods, institutions and legislative bodies, as well as courts, offices and schools. Among his most iconic protests was the Salt March of 1930, a poignant demonstration against the British-imposed salt tax which galvanized widespread public support and drew global attention to India's plight. Starting in 1942, Gandhi intensified his efforts with the Quit India movement, demanding the immediate withdrawal of British colonial rule from India. Despite his efforts to foster unity among Muslim, Hindu, and British leaders to negotiate India's independence, Gandhi was unable to prevent the Mountbatten Plan's implementation in 1947. This partitioned the subcontinent into a Hindu-majority India and a Muslim-majority East and West Pakistan, resulting in widespread violence and communal strife. India finally gained independence on 15th August 1947, but it was marred by violent communal riots that Gandhi tirelessly worked to quell. His legacy as the father of the nation endures, celebrated for his advocacy of non-violent civil disobedience, social justice, religious tolerance, and his ability to reconcile conflicting factions. However, Gandhi's legacy was not without controversy. He was assassinated on January 30th, 1948 by a Hindu radical who opposed Gandhi's efforts to foster peace and harmony between Muslims and Hindus. While Gandhi's contributions to peace and social justice remained widely revered, scholars have also scrutinized his troubling and racially prejudiced views towards black Africans, complicating his legacy as a champion of universal human rights and equality. In recent years, scholars like Ashwin Desai and Ghulam Wahid have critically examined Mahatma Gandhi's legacy, shedding light on some of his troubling beliefs and actions, particularly during his time in South Africa. The book, The South African Gandhi, Stretcher-Bearer of Empire, highlights Gandhi's problematic views towards black Africans. During his tenure in South Africa, Gandhi frequently referred to black people using a racial slur in his writings. He held the beliefs that Indians were inherently superior to black Africans, considering them to be of a lower status. He also expressed views that upheld the dominance of white people, describing them as the predominating race in the region. Despite facing similar discrimination under British colonial rule, Gandhi did not advocate for the rights of black South Africans in the same way he did for Indians. He appeared indifferent to their struggles and did not support their fight against racial oppression. Instead, he argued for racial segregation between Indians and black Africans, believing that governmental power should remain in the hands of white people. Desai and Wahid argue that Gandhi's attitudes towards Africans were not just a reflection of his time, but were actively exclusionary and supportive of minority white rule. They suggest that Gandhi collaborated with the British government to maintain racial segregation policies, further cementing his reputation as someone who upheld racial hierarchy rather than challenging it. These revelations have sparked debate and controversy about Gandhi's legacy as a proponent of non-violence and social justice. While he remains revered for his role in India's independence movement and his philosophy of non-violent resistance, Gandhi's views on race and his actions in South Africa complicate his image as a universal advocate for equality and human rights. Before we dive into Gandhi's views on sex and women, let's clear up a common misconception. Gandhi and Hitler were not friends. Yes, Gandhi wrote to Hitler addressing him as a friend and signed his letters that way, but it was actually an attempt to persuade Hitler to avoid war. In his second letter, Gandhi emphasized that he considered everyone as his friend because his life's mission for over 33 years had been to promote friendship and unity among all humanity regardless of differences. So, while it might seem surprising at first, it appears Gandhi's approach was more about using a familiar tone to influence Hitler. He didn't hesitate to criticize Hitler's actions as monstrous and against human dignity in that same correspondence. Moving on to Gandhi's personal life. At 38, he took a vow of celibacy despite already having 4 children with his wife Kasturba, whom he married at 13. Gandhi openly wrote about feeling guilty for leaving his father's deathbed to be with his wife and later feeling compelled to test his self-discipline against sexual desires. This led to controversial practices like sharing a bed with naked teenagers, including his grandniece Manu Gandhi when he was in his 70s. These young women served as temptations as part of his adherence to brahmacharya, a Hindu practice aimed at cultivating spiritual strength through celibacy. Gandhi believed his celibacy could even influence larger societal issues such as the Hindu-Muslim conflict in Bengal. Despite criticism from some of his associates, Gandhi persisted with these tests, viewing even wet dreams as a challenge to his celibacy. His actions sparked debate then and continue to do so now, reflecting his deep personal and morally rigorous approach to life. When it comes to women's rights, Gandhi believed in the full equality of women and supported their education and entry into the workforce. However, some of his views and personal actions reflect a more complex reality. For instance, he opposed contraceptives, believing they encouraged lust rather than responsible procreation. He also believed women should primarily handle domestic responsibilities, including childcare. While these views may seem conservative today, they were considered progressive during Gandhi's time. Gandhi's legacy in India is undeniable, where he is revered as a father of the nation for his role in achieving independence from colonial rule. However, his beliefs and actions have faced scrutiny in recent years, especially regarding issues of race and gender. Critics have pointed out instances where Gandhi held racist views earlier in his life, particularly during his time in South Africa. Despite this, others argue that Gandhi's later work and statements show a shift towards anti-racism, and his influence on women's empowerment in India continues to be felt. And that wraps up today's video. Thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. What other dark truth did we miss? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button and smash that subscribe button to stay updated.